Lyon might only be the third largest city in France, but when it comes to sports venues, it certainly punches above its weight. Let's check out the stadiums and arenas of Lyon, France. Matmut Stadium Gironde. This might be one of my favourite types of stadium. No, not specifically a rugby stadium, but a stadium that was effectively built on the site of an old stadium and has incorporated some of the old stadium's design into it. The original stadium actually took 7 or 8 years to build. It was delayed by several years, but I think we can forgive the builders though, as there was a rather disruptive event that occurred during construction, one known as World War I. It more or less became the stadium that it is today when it was renovated prior to the 1998 FIFA World Cup. They demolished the curving stands at the ends and turned it into a rectangular stadium. However, importantly, they retained these exterior walls. Some people don't like that clash of modernity and antiquity, but yeah, as already alluded to, I love it. A great stadium to start with. Next door is Palais des Sports de Gironde. With a grandiose title like the Palace of Sports, you'd expect this to be the largest indoor arena in the city. It's not, but to be fair, it once was. As recently as 2 years ago. We'll get to the arena that knocked it off its pedestal soon. The Palace's main tenant nowadays is the WTA Lyon Open, which is an annual tennis event. So throughout the rest of the year it has plenty of time for other sports, as you can see. In these shots it is clearly set up to host square ball. Gotta love square ball. It's quite an interesting interior design, come to think of it. The ceiling is mesmerizing. Groupe Stadium. Yet another ground that calls itself a stadium rather than the French word stade. I believe this is due to French people's love and admiration for all things English. It may have been the '98 World Cup that reinvigorated Matmut Stadium Gironde, but it was the 2016 Euros that brought this stadium into existence. Although the club had been trying to get a new stadium built for much longer than that. In terms of its design, it's probably the roof that stands out most. It's one of the largest of its kind. Its kind presumably being one that looks like some sort of jagged gemstone. The stadium was built as part of a greater project called OL Valley, which includes several buildings owned by the club's parent company, including the newly built LDLC Arena, which is just a stone's throw away. Although in this shot they haven't started building it yet, and in this shot it's still under construction. And oh, there we are, that's better. As I alluded to earlier, this is the largest arena in the city, and the new home of Asvel Basket, the biggest basketball club in the city, at least for their EuroLeague games. Whilst the exterior was as white can be, the interior is as black as the ace of spades. It's like licorice. Basically everything bar the court is black, and although I'm normally a fan of bright colours, this looks good as well. Other than that, it has all the amenities you'd expect of a modern basketball arena, like backboards and that. Asvel Basket plays its domestic games at a place called Astro Bowl, although a more descriptive name would have been the White House or Les Maisons Blanches, because this too is all white outside. Part of the reason that the previous venue was built is because this place doesn't quite have a large enough capacity for EuroLeague games. But despite that new venue being built, there has still been some money put into some recent renovations here. Most notably, they exchanged these archaic projector screens for proper video boards, which are clearly a lot clearer. Of course, the CEOs of these projector companies wouldn't tell you that. They'd say LED screens are weak and don't fare well in a floodlit environment, but that is clearly projection on their behalf. Next door we have Stade Georges Livet, which is situated in a nice little spot by the river? Canal? I think it's a diversion of the Rhône River, but does it still count as a river? I don't know, who cares? Anyway, it's a rugby stadium that is not only right by the water, but if you follow the main stand from right to left, it sort of continues well past the field over towards a couple of swimming pools. So it's also right by the water. Stade Balmon. It would have been a little weird not to see at least one of these little track and field stadiums. We see them in just about every one of these city videos. It's not the most interesting of stadiums, but it serves a purpose. Well, I say it's not interesting, but if you have a strange fascination with concrete, then this might be the stadium for you, because there is plenty of bare concrete on show, on the outside and within.
Look at all that concrete. So beautiful and grey, hard as a rock, yet as delicate as a butterfly. Concrete is the very essence of what it is to be human. It can even get down.
This is an... oh, that's just a circus, my bad. Matmut Stadium. This modular stadium was built in just 3 months to serve as a temporary home for Lyon rugby after they were promoted to the top 14. It was built on the site of what was their training ground. The club ended up playing here for a few years before moving into Matmut Stadium of the Gerland variety at around the time that this Lyon moved out. But rather than dismantling it after they left, it has instead stuck around and was actually occupied by carnival folk from the Lyon fairground. They lived here. That's what all these trucks are. I wasn't going to because of its small capacity, but now I feel obliged to talk about the club's old ground, given that it's just over the road. Stade Lyonnais. You can see why they needed a new home once they were promoted, given that this one has a capacity of less than 5,000. Also, due to the fact that only 2 sides of the field are bordered by stands, it means that there are about a dozen or so free-loading houses that can watch the game without purchasing a ticket. And you know, if the club kept on becoming more and more successful, we might have seen the Chicago Cubs Wrigley rooftop situation, and I'm not sure those roofs can handle it. As you can see, it is used primarily for football nowadays, FC Lyon to be specific. They are a historic yet very small amateur club. Patinoire Charlamagne. In case you were wondering, this place is not named after Charlamagne the medieval ruler, but is instead named after the area of the city in which it's located, which in turn is named after Charlamagne, or Chaz the Great as he was more commonly known. This is the biggest hockey-specific arena in the city. It's not very big, and at the moment it doesn't need to be. The professional club that did occupy it folded in 2019. I believe they still operate as an amateur club though. It might be small, but I like that slanted roof, and of course the plentiful windows. Looks like the video board is wearing a mosquito net. But that's alright, we don't want to mess around with West Nile virus. And those were the Stadiums of Lyon. Bien stade, bien stade. Merci beaucoup for watching, have a good one.